Good morning, everyone. This is Ray Magbanwa, a reporter of Group 1 Lang Malakas. Today, I'll be talking about problem-based learning. I hope you are ready. As we move along with my report this morning, you will be able to know more about the following topics. Number 1, what is problem-based learning? Number 2, what are the considerations for using problem-based learning? Number 3, how do we get started with problem-based learning? Number 4, what are the teachers' and students' role in problem-based learning? Number 5, what are the structure and types of problem-based learning? Number 6, how does problem-based learning works? Number 7, what are the advantages and disadvantages of problem-based learning? And the last number 8, why problem-based learning? Let's start with the first topic, what is problem-based learning? So problem-based learning is a student-centered approach in which students learn about a subject by working in groups to solve an open-ended problem. This problem is what drives motivation and learning. Meaning, problem-based learning is self-directed, where our learners can work independently with their teams. They will be given the chance to manage projects, and in doing so, they can hold leadership roles. So as they go along with a given problem, their critical thinking skills and analysis will be fully utilized for them to explain the underlying concept in a given problem. They will become self-aware of the processes in solving the given problem. Thus, this will greatly improve their oral and written communication. Let's talk about the considerations for using problem-based learning. So rather than teaching relevant material and subsequently having students apply the knowledge to solve problems, the problem is presented first. Problem-based learning assignments can be short or they can be more involved and take a whole semester. Likewise, problem-based learning is often group-oriented, so it is beneficial to set aside classroom time to prepare students to work in groups and to allow them to engage in their problem-based learning project. In general, students must examine and define the problem, explore what they already know about underlying issues related to it, determine what they need to learn and where they can acquire the information and tools necessary to solve the problem. Evaluate possible ways to solve the problem, solve the problem, and report on their findings. Let's talk about how to get started with problem-based learning. So first, establish the learning outcomes. You must articulate the learning outcomes of the project by using this question. What do you want students to know or be able to do as a result of participating in the assignment? Second, find a real-world problem that is relevant to the students. So in creating the problem, ideally, this will be a real-world situation that resembles something students may encounter in their future careers or lives. So these following cases are often the basis of problem-based learning. Third, discuss pertinent rules for working in groups. It is a very must activity that there should be an establishment of ground rules at the beginning to prepare students to work effectively in groups. Fourth, explore different roles for students. Consider having students take on different roles or divide up the work up amongst themselves. Alternatively, the project might require students to assume various perspectives such as those of government officials, local business owners, and others. Lastly, determine how the project will be evaluated and assessed. You must establish how you will evaluate and assess the assignment. Consider making the self and peer assessments a part of the assignment grade. And of course, you must give them their rubrics. Now, what are the teacher's role in problem-based learning? First is to determine a problem aligned with the course and your students. The problem needs to be demanding enough that the students most likely cannot solve it on their own. It also needs to teach them new skills. When sharing the problem with students, state it in a narrative complete with pertinent background information without excessive information. Of course, you must also allow the students to find out more details as they work on the problem. Additionally, this problem-based learning or the problem assignment should be within the scope of the learning competency. Next, place students in groups wherein they are well mixed in diversity and skill levels to strengthen the groups. It is a way to help students work successfully in their respective groups. Lastly, as a facilitator, you must support the students with understanding the content on a deeper level. So you must coach your pupils, your learners as they move along or as they evaluate the possible ways in solving the problem. On the other hand, these are the students' role in problem-based learning. They are the one to analyze the problem and the issues that are presented in the problem. Second, they should construct a list of what is known about the problem. Third, they must construct the problem statements in their own words and take into account the knowledge of their own group. Fourth, they must generate a list of possible solutions that are ranked according to which solution is most likely they should use in order to achieve or meet the success of the project or in order to solve the problem. Fifth, they should establish a timeline with concrete actions. Sixth, they must generate a list of what else their team needs to know about the problem in order to solve it. Seventh, they must organize and write the team's report of the problem solution. Eighth, it is important for them to note that a goal of their problem-based learning project is to present the conclusions. 9. It is very important that they must have reflective thinking in order for them to have the transfer of knowledge as they are working with their problem-based learning project. Let's continue to the structure of problem-based learning. First, problem-based learning associates with real-life problems. Second, in problem-based learning, problems are given to the students in the form of PBL intentionally beforehand. Third, it supports studying through effective teamwork. Fourth, the teacher becomes a coordinator who acts as a supervisor. Fifth, this requires lots of time. And six, the last one, it is most effective if it crosses in multidisciplinary disciplines. Let's continue to the three types of problem-based learning. The first type is called PSPBL or the Problem-Stimulated Problem-Based Learning. It focuses on the development of domain-specific skills, the development of problem-solving skills, and the interpretation of domain-specific knowledge. The second type is called SCPBL, or the Student-Centered Problem-Based Learning. Its focus is just like that of PSPBL with one more additional factor. That factor is called updating lifelong skills. This factor is beneficial for people who have been teaching and practicing in a certain field for a long time. For example, these people are the engineers, the doctors, the executive practitioners, and of course, us, teachers. The third type is called case-based PBL, or the case-based problem-based learning. It determines what type of solution present, what should we use to solve the given scenario, and focus and stress on the topic to study. This is also called learning by design, in which you are given a situation and you must make use of alternative solutions so that you can solve a case or a problem more effectively. Again, the three types of problem-based learning are problem-stimulated problem-based learning, the student-centered problem-based learning, and the case-based problem-based learning. Now, let's learn how does problem-based learning work. This problem-based learning work in three phases. In phase 1, first, the group will discuss what they already know. Then, discuss the problem present. Hence, agreement on what kind of problem it is made. Furthermore, this analysis decides what different aspects of the plot should be studied and investigated. In phase 2, the learners must decide what factors should they require to solve the problem. Then they must answer the question, what do they need to know about the problem? In phase 3, the last phase, this requires the individuals to discuss the various hypotheses that presented and how they can be solved. They will be able to answer what should they do. This method encourages the group to identify and follow the different study techniques. Again, problem-based learning undergoes three phases. Now, let's talk about the advantages of problem-based learning. First, problem-based learning replaces the traditional lectures with assistive learning, facultative mentoring, discussions, and on-site experience. This promotes deep learning within the individual. Hence, the student's knowledge grows as more and more discussions are made. Second, direct teaching is reduced. This promotes students to take up their initiative in learning. This increases the feeling of motivation within the student, hence making the learning experience more interesting. Third, problem-based learning requires prior knowledge for the completion of problems. Hence, constant updation and revision of basic knowledge are done. This keeps the student more firm in the basic foundation of the subject. Fourth, problem-based thinking often stimulates critical thinking. The students try to think about the various aspects of the project rather than following what teach through lectures. The students pursue to think about how, where, and why aspect of the problems introduced. Fifth, problem-based learners tend to be more skilled and competent in collecting information than traditional learners. This is because traditional learners tend to only stick to books that prescribe in the curriculum and they do not try to explore various sources. On the other hand, problem-based learners tend to be more practical, and problem-based learning encourages them to think outside the box. Six, problem-based learning relate to life-based skills and practices. Hence, these skills can also transfer to individuals through proper training and practices. Therefore, such skills can act as an aid in real-life situations like in corporate jobs or the medical field. 7. The problems introduced in the problem-based learning curriculum are all open-ended questions. This gives room for more discussions and understanding about the concepts, and more data retrieval can be done. Moreover, such questions do not have a right or wrong answer. The most suitable and feasible answers take into consideration. Hence, there might also be a chance to have more than one answer to a question. This encourages individuals to study the facts more clearly. 8. Another main factor of problem-based learning is that it requires good communication skills. Problem-based learning increases the social skills of the individuals as it involves the comparison of peer skills and also insightful discussions. There is no form of hierarchy, and all the individuals treat as same. This also makes the students develop their confrontational and persuasive skills. In contrast, the following are the disadvantages of using problem-based learning. So a good problem-based learning design requires a large amount of time and work. It requires constant monitoring and noting down the student throughout the process. This is a bit time-consuming in nature since most of the questions asked are usually open-ended, and it takes time to collect materials and information about it. Number 2, not all teachers can be good advisors. For problem-based learning, they need dedicated, hardworking, and trained facilitators. Moreover, good problem-based learning trainers are satisfying to work with and are self-motivational for the students and fellow teachers. Number 3, problem-based learning requires more staff and more contact hours for preparation, discussion, and comparison of answers. Students and the advisor are supposed to do timely and seasonable meetings once in a while. Number 4, it's a known fact that problem-based learning doesn't provide that many facts when compared with a traditional method. So many of the teachers hesitate to take up this form of teaching. Problem-based learning is more suitable for subjects that do not require much prior knowledge about the subject. For example, for teaching literature or for using problem-based learning in arts facilities. Number 5, for the problem-based learning curriculum to be effective, it requires multiple disciplines to integrate so that the students can get different aspects of a situation. Hence, proper research and excessive amounts of an organization required. This makes it more time-consumable and is not suitable for fast-paced courses. The course also needs to validate before presenting it before the students. 6. Assessing a certain student within a team is always tough for the coordinator. They have to consider different aspects such as the output obtained as a whole for the team, the level of enthusiasm shown by each individual, the activeness shown by a certain student, a clear assessment criterion or a standard for marking students in a group is always important. Number 7, problem-based learning is also difficult for the institution because they have to change the course depending upon the lecturer. Since the whole problem-based learning curriculum is an image of their ideals and how they should train the students. Lastly, number 8, more and more coordinators required to assess and guide students along the way, and also they need people to create as many difficult situations as possible. With all those pros and cons, why use problem-based learning? A problem-based learning course design in such a way to provide students with authentic, hands-on, real-life problems and practices that encourage students to think outside the box. Additionally, problem-based learning is a challenging program because they need to understand the design of the organization and how it works by the motivation of the whole team. Moreover, the information provided is apparent. The students feel a need to search for information when they solve and discuss problems. Hence, students can feel genuinely interested in learning. Thank you, and that's all for problem-based learning. Again, this is Ray Mabanwa.
Like it's been too long, I could never let you go on thinking about the secrets true. And I would never bet the world that I would find.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Doreen Mahilom from Group 1, and I am tasked to discuss the math manipulatives. As we go on with our discussion, I want you to lend me your ears, and you can also share your thoughts regarding our topic after the discussion. So what comes to your mind when you hear the strategy body math manipulatives? And what are body math manipulatives? Manipulatives are physical materials used to represent and solve problems, are ubiquitous in elementary mathematics classroom. Manipulatives are physical objects designed so that the learner can perceive some mathematical concept by manipulating it. Elementary children can learn concepts through hands-on experience. In mathematics, we use physical objects like popsicle or counting sticks when we teach addition to our pupils and also subtractions. And there are many other manipulatives. Following are the topics under body math manipulatives that we are going to discuss today. First, teaching resources using manipulatives in mathematics learning. Second, recommendations for using manipulatives. And third, how do manipulatives support learning in mathematics? And number 4, we have examples of manipulatives in the classroom, considerations for effective use of manipulatives, and advantages and disadvantages of manipulatives. Under using manipulatives in mathematics learning, using simple physical objects that students can visualize, touch, and move to express their thinking is an inexpensive and effective classroom resource to explore mathematical concepts and encourage learning. Manipulatives help students learn by allowing them to move from concrete experiences to abstract reasoning. The educational foundation for using math manipulatives is supported by the learning theory of Jean Piaget. According to Piaget, children are active learners who master concepts by progressing through 3 levels of knowledge, from concrete to pictorial or representation, and then to abstract. As ideas already exist in our children's minds, we reinforce it with manipulatives. By physically touching the objects, we provide concrete experiences to our students. Then it will help them construct an understanding of ideas that they can connect to mathematical vocabulary and symbols. Just like in the picture on the right of our presentation, when we teach addition to our students, it will help them better understand the concept of addition if they see it with their own eyes and manipulate the objects with their hands. Analysis of PISA results emphasizes the link between proficiency in mathematics and positive outcomes for students. Math manipulatives make learning math interesting and enjoyable for our students. Manipulatives intrigue and motivate our students to learn. It is one of our goals to develop students' confidence And manipulatives help us with this by giving them a way to test and confirm their reasoning. It will help us provide positive outcomes for our students and increase their proficiency in mathematics. The use of manipulatives is explored in Evidence for Learnings, or the E4L, most recent guidance report, Improving Mathematics in Upper Primary and Lower Secondary. No one strategy or tool will improve a student's proficiency in mathematics in isolation. However, using manipulatives where purposeful in line with other evidence-informed strategies, such as developing metacognition or structured interventions, is likely to improve students' outcomes. In the Evidence for Learnings, or the E4L, guidance reports are one way in which E4L is building actionable evidence to help schools make evidence-informed decisions. First recommendation is to use assessment to build on students' existing knowledge and understanding. Research in educational psychology demonstrates that students' prior knowledge can directly impact their learning in class. Students possess educational experience as well as personal theories that shape how they respond to teaching and learning. Conversely, prior misconceptualizations or inaccurate knowledge can also hinder future development. As such, we teachers should take time through assessments to ascertain the knowledge our students bring to the classroom and strategize how this information can inform the pedagogy we use in classroom, the teaching and learning process we use for our students. Second is to use manipulatives or representations. Providing physical and virtual representations of numbers and math concepts helps activate mental processes. Learners understand more deeply through hands-on experimentation and exploration with manipulatives. While it is important for our teachers to choose the best manipulatives for a specific learning objective, we should also let students explore in an open-ended way, developing their mathematical flexibility as they generate multiple solutions to problems. Teachers can also use manipulatives to launch rich discussions, since they are the one responsible for their learning, and to clarify students' misconceptions of the content. Third is to teach strategies for problem solving. No one tool in isolation can help improve proficiency of students on mathematics. Using varied teaching strategies can engage students in developing deep understanding of important concepts and principles, developing skills and relevant to authentic future applications. Fourth is to enable students to develop rich network of mathematical knowledge. Young children begin to naturally develop math skills at a young age by doing simple things like stacking blocks. The idea of manipulatives is familiar with our children. It is important to surround the learning environment with objects, toys, and activities involving math so it can help with their critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Fifth is to develop students' independence and motivation. Encouraging students to be independent learners not only has huge benefits for them, but it's also proven high impact to improve progress. The Education Foundation found that self-regulated or the independent learning has a high impact on pupils' progress. Students exploring for themselves is the very core of learning. Making discoveries from a task the teacher says that they are genuinely interested in and find challenging, and the feeling they gain from self-direction is wonderfully rewarding for our learners. Number 6 is to use tasks and resources to challenge and support students' mathematics. In effective teaching, worthwhile mathematical tasks are used to introduce important mathematical ideas and to engage and challenge students intellectually. Well-chosen tasks can pique students' curiosity and draw them into mathematics. Worthwhile tasks should be intriguing, with a level of challenge that invites speculation and hard work. When challenged with appropriate chosen tasks, students become confident in their ability to tackle difficult problems, eager to figure things out on their own, flexible in exploring mathematical ideas and trying alternative solution paths, and willing to persevere. Number 7 is to use structured interventions to provide additional support. Intervention in education allow teachers to address any gaps in a child's progress. Once a need has been identified, effective interventions can then be used to overcome any barriers in the child's learning. When we provide interventions, we give sequential and structured instructions that begins with simple concepts and moves to more complex based on logical steps. Involved considerable overlearning to achieve automaticity and mastery of skills before moving on. Using a structured intervention, teachers can swiftly close progress of attainment gaps in key area. Number 8 is to support students to make a successful transition between primary and secondary school. One of the important part of the transition is the collaboration between primary and secondary colleagues. It is a joint effort. We can only host a successful transition by working together cohesively. Observe colleagues in other settings and exchange planning. Also, we can ask students what they need for their transition and include it where possible to give them additional support. How do manipulatives support learning in mathematics? First, manipulatives are physical objects that students can visualize, touch, and move. Manipulatives, by its name, allow learners to manipulate physical objects with their own hands, and also used in moderation and as a tool to the scaffold. Manipulatives can help students to problem solve, reason, and transfer their understanding. Only use appropriate manipulatives because some irrelevant features can also interfere with learning by distracting learner from relevant concepts. And third, an important point for teachers to note is that they should use their judgment. Teachers should know when to employ manipulatives and when they need to be removed to avoid reliance. So what are examples of manipulatives in the classroom? We have Lego, puzzle blocks, coins, markers, unicorn patterns, Rubik's Cube, fraction strips, and many other manipulatives. Considerations for effective use of manipulatives. First is to have a clear rationale. Ensure that there is a clear rationale for using a particular manipulative or representation to teach a specific mathematical concept. Manipulatives should be used to provide insights into increasingly sophisticated maths. Second is to make connections between manipulatives and mathematical ideas. Enable students to understand that links between the manipulatives and the mathematical ideas they represent. This requires teachers to encourage students to link material and the action performed on or with them to the math situation, to appreciate the limitations of concrete materials, and to develop related mathematical images, representations, and symbols. Third is to avoid reliance. Try to avoid students becoming reliant on manipulatives to do a type of task or question. A manipulative should enable a student to understand math concepts by eliminating the underlying general relationships, not just getting them to the right answer to a specific problem. Also, use manipulatives as a scaffold. Manipulatives should act as a scaffold which can be removed once independence is achieved. Before using a manipulative, it is important to consider how it can enable students to eventually do the math without them. When moving away from manipulatives, students may find it helpful to draw diagrams or imagine using manipulatives. And use manipulatives across all ages. Manipulatives can be used to support students of all ages, depending on where they are in their learning journey. The decision to remove a manipulative should be made in response to the student's improved knowledge and understanding, not their age. Now let's have the advantages of manipulatives in education. First is it teaches underlying values and skills. Manipulatives help develop problem-solving skills, patience and attention span, critical thinking, creativity, and concentration. Second, students feel more capable and competent. They feel more capable because they do things on their own, discover things on their own, and they feel less dependent to us teachers because we let them have their own discovery through hands-on experience. Third, they will see real-life applications of concepts. Rather than teaching them concepts, manipulatives allow them to literally grasp each situation and they will feel the relevance of the concepts. Also, one advantage of manipulative is it can keep the students occupied. Manipulatives attracts a lot of attention and can keep it as long as it is developmentally appropriate. And easier for students to understand and reflect on the topic. Since everything happened under their control, it is easier for them to analyze what they did and it will allow them to play around the concepts. So if we have an advantage, we also have disadvantages of manipulatives in education. First, it is costly. During this pandemic, if you use virtual manipulatives, the students have to have individual computers. And for face-to-face using concrete manipulatives, the teachers need to purchase the appropriate manipulative if it is not provided by the school. Second, has to be carefully planned and takes a lot of time. There are a lot to consider when using manipulatives, both virtual and concrete. Is the difficulty or complexity just right for the students? Will they get and understand the underlying concept? Is it too fun or too boring? We get to have answers to these questions when we use manipulatives. We also have some other findings in using manipulatives. Incorporating both types of manipulatives into the instruction of prospective mathematics teachers not only helps them to build their own conceptual understanding, but also provides them with sound pedagogical strategies for use with their future students. There seems to be a definite advantage to incorporating both types of manipulatives. Once conceptual understanding is affected with concrete manipulative, the subsequent use of virtual manipulatives seems to facilitate bridging to the abstract. And concrete manipulatives appear to be more effective for building pre-service teachers' conceptual understanding, with virtual manipulatives used to reinforce those concepts. Majority of students found concrete manipulatives to be easier to use, but not necessarily more readily available than virtual ones. Thank you for listening. Again, this is Lorene Mahilom, and that is all for Body Math Manipulative.